first up, what's next?
We've got an interview with Jeremy Dyson.
Who's he?
He's a screenwriter. He's part of the League of Gentlemen, and he co-wrote the successful play that's in the West End now called Ghost Stories.
Yeah, I think, in fact, calling it successful is a bit of underselling it. It's a complete hit.
Very successful.
So this is him backstage talking to Alex Rayner about Stanley Kubrick and The Shelf of Joy.
People who write both books and plays say that the social side of theatre is a godsend when you...
That's right. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'd say with TV, I feel very lucky to do both because, TV and the theatre are very gregarious things when you're making them. So it's great for a writer who spends most of his time in his shed to be in the company of other, particularly actors, because I do like being in the company of actors.
You have a sort of peculiar relationship with performance because you, as far as I can gather, had a deep love of performance as a kid and first worked as a children's entertainer, but now you perform less. Is that?
Well, no, I'm not an actor. It's as simple as that. So I have no problem being in front of an audience, which I quite like showing off. But I was never confident in my abilities as an actor, which is not the same thing as just being on a stage, and I think and it was never something that I particularly wanted to do. So.
Describe the difference between being an actor and simply being on stage.
Well, because you have to create character and inhabit it and bring it to life, and then there's all the technical things that go with it. And I think to be a good actor, I think there's a certain skill set that you have to really be born with. I don't think you can, you can't just pluck it out of the air. And it's a lot to do with how you control your voice and how you control yourself physically. And it wasn't in my repertoire.
So is it an art or a craft in your opinion?
Like writing, it's both. Okay. It's very similar to writing. There's a massive overlap between writing and acting, which is why you get a lot of actors who write and vice versa, I think. You're doing it's coming from a similar place.
Tell me a little bit about your Shelf of Joy.
That is the thing I devised a few years ago because I had a couple of years where I sort of lost my way a bit, pre-Ghost Stories, I think. And I picked a couple of projects which weren't the right projects for me. And then Ghost Stories was a massive reminder of everything that I enjoy doing. And so I created this shelf in my office in front of me, it basically contained all my favourite books from childhood, which is not just books, records, and anything that could fit on it. It was sort of eclectic mix. So now when I'm considering a project, I just glance up at it and think, well, is it that? And if it's not, then I know not to do it.
Is there a cut-off point from the days at which you read or heard or listened to something on the Shelf of Joy? Is it up to about 17?
No, actually, the bulk of it is from one's formative years, kind of 7 through to 12. But there are things up there that are, recent, past few years too. So, it's an ongoing process. Yeah.
Okay, tell me something that was put there originally and something that's been added recently.
Well, the oldest thing that's there is it's either Magical Mystery Tour, out the album, or a book about the making of 2001, which I adored I saw it when I was 7, and it had a massive effect on me. And then the most recent thing is probably a book called Strong Magic by Darwin Ortiz, which is a magician's book about theory of doing magic and conjuring, which is an absolutely brilliant piece of work.
I read that you're an admirer of Kubrick, not least because he managed to spend a huge amount of time with his family and also make incredible works of art.
Yeah, both. That's why I'm an admirer of Kubrick. Yeah. Well, Andy's worldview, and which is kind of incredibly intelligent, witty, ironic, dark, truthful, unbelievably truthful, I think. Unflinching. I mean, somebody said about him, I think it was the head of Warner's who he used to work with, said he had an amazing ability to sort of see what was wrong with the world and turn it into entertainment. I think that sums up what he did, which is no mean feat.
But equally, you no longer live in London, and you manage to spend a huge amount of time with your kids.
I do, yes.
I suppose you're probably reading books to them that may be on the Shelf of Joy or not, you know, or it was certainly reading children's literature to them. Has that given you a fresh insight into those books?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you are aware that they are now in that phase, and I suppose I probably think unnaturally much about that, you know, because it's my work. But absolutely, yeah. And I rediscovering Roald Dahl was a joy, you know, because he was probably the first author I ever loved, and so to read those stories as an adult and appreciate how, from a writer's point of view, how brilliant they are, has been a great pleasure.
Well, tell me a little bit about this collection that you're soon to finish off, and what else the future holds.
So yeah, this book's called The Haunted Book. So it was after doing ghost stories, I thought, because my previous collections of short stories have some supernatural stuff in them, but not by no means exclusively that. I thought it would be great to do a book that was a version of those books that I first loved, which were collections of ghost stories. So it is. It's taking that idea and running with it, really, and they are linked by this notion of taking supposed real life. I'm a skeptic, you see, so I don't believe in ghosts, but I like the idea of taking other people's reported ghost sightings or whatever, or supernatural experiences, and then and weaving a story out of them.
This is Book Slam.
So that was ghoulish Jeremy Dyson, who joined us at Book Slam. If you want to find out more about him and his writing, you can follow him on Twitter at Dyson Jeremy.